Let me now turn it over to Justin Tanis from the National Center for Transgender Equality. I'm so glad, Justin, that you were able to join us today. A lot of times when we talk about LGBT topics, it seems like the conversation is really just about LGB or really just about LG. So I'm so glad that you're here and looking forward to hearing what you have to tell us.
Great, thank you. As I said, my name is Justin Tanis. I'm with the National Center for Transgender Equality, and we're an organization that advocates for the rights of transgender people at the federal level. And what I want to talk to you about today is a survey that we did with the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force on transgender people's experiences of discrimination. And we also did this in collaboration with Penn State University, and I know Sue Rankin is on the call, and Sue is one of the folks that we worked closely with, and are so glad for the participation of her and her colleagues in this. It was a 70-question survey, so we have a ton of data. And one of the things that we see overall is that when people had an experience of discrimination, it wasn't just the trauma of that experience of discrimination, but it led to all kinds of other bad outcomes in their lives. And I want to talk specifically today about some of the information we found out about the experiences of students who were bullied, because since that's a current topic. The survey was the largest survey to date on the discrimination experienced by transgender people. And we had 6,450 total surveys of transgender and gender nonconforming people. And our geographic distribution and many of the other demographic criteria did a good job mirroring the country as a whole. I won't go into that, but we have more information if you're interested. But one of the questions we asked is, did people attend school at any level as a transgender or gender nonconforming person? And 49% of our sample said yes. And so we're going to talk about those people today. And you'll see that the younger people were more likely to have attended school than older people with an identity as transgender or gender nonconforming. But if you have seen charts before about who's in school, this curve should be significantly steeper. So we had a higher percentage of people who were in their middle ages attending school and a lower percentage of younger people than the country as a whole. But one of the things we found was that large numbers of students, in this case 61%, reported that when they were attending school, they were harassed and bullied, and students reported being harassed and bullied both by their peers and by their teachers. If we look just at the students in K through 12 and the experience of those students as opposed to the overall sample of students who attended school, and we asked for everything from kindergarten through graduate school. But K through 12 is clearly where a larger percentage of problems occurred. And 78% of the students report having been harassed in school, and 35% physically assaulted, and 12% sexually assaulted while they were in school. And if you look at the overall sample as a whole, 23% reported that they were physically assaulted in school, and 8% that they were sexually assaulted. Obviously, these are devastating numbers. We also found that people ended up having to leave school because of the harassment that they faced as transgender people. 5% of the students were expelled from school because of their gender identity, and it goes up to 6% for students in K through 12. So they simply, because of their transgender or gender nonconforming identity, they were asked to leave. And another 15% reported that they had to leave school because the harassment was so bad. So I think these numbers explain why a lower percentage of 18 to 24-year-olds in our sample were in school than the general population. We also found that there were a number of bad outcomes that came for students. If they were harassed or bullied in schools, they are more likely to have lost a job due to bias or to be unemployed. In our overall sample, 26% of the people had lost a job because of discrimination. But this is almost 3 times that number. So students who are harassed or bullied in schools are significantly more likely to face later job discrimination or to be unemployed. They also were much more likely to work in the street economy. I think that's, there we go, which was selling drugs or engaging in sex work. 71% of the students who were bullied and harassed in school compared to 29% of students who were not bullied or harassed in school. So clearly this had an impact on people's job prospects in the future and the ways in which they have to survive. Students who were bullied and harassed in school also had other health outcomes. one of the questions that we asked people was whether they used drugs or alcohol to help themselves cope with the effect of discrimination. And students who had been harassed, bullied, assaulted, or expelled used drugs or alcohol. 35% of them reported using those things to cope with the discrimination they faced, versus 21% of people who had not experienced that. Also, they were much more. 25% of people who had been bullied in school reported being currently or formerly homeless, compared to 14% of people who had not experienced that. So, again, a large increase in the percentage of people who ended up living on the streets. And then finally, students who were in the group that reported they had to leave school because the harassment was so bad that they really felt they couldn't stay, had a significantly higher HIV rate of 5%, which is 8 times the rate of the general population. So obviously the harassment and bullying they experienced had long-term health consequences for the participants. And one of the other places where we saw see a significant problem for people was in the area of suicide. We asked our participants overall, and that top number should be 41%. That's a typo. It's bad, but it's not quite that bad. But we asked our participants if they had ever attempted suicide, and 41% said yes. And that's the same number estimate for the U.S. general population is 1.6%, so clearly a staggering increase. But among students who had been harassed or bullied, 51% of them, so more than half, had ended up attempting suicide at some point in their life. And if teachers are the perpetrators of that crime, it's even worse. If teachers harass them, physically assaulted them, or sexually assaulted them, you can see the numbers there. But the risk was even greater. And students who had to leave school because the harassment was so bad also were at significantly greater risk. 68% of a population attempting suicide is just a devastating number. So, and here's a couple of quotes from our participants about the kind of harassment that they faced. So I just want, one of the things that's important is that students see information about themselves in the anti-bullying. And my question is, if you've been seeing any of the suicide prevention messages that target LGBT students to help prevent suicide, have you seen any transgender-specific messages? Okay, I see people responding. So we'll give that another minute. But one of the things that is very important is that when youth, especially youth who are already considering suicide or who's are living in the dire situation where they're being harassed and bullied and attacked, they need to hear that there are messages for people like them. And so one of the things that we want to encourage is that when messages are being developed for LGBT students, that they that they are genuinely LGBT and they include information for transgender students, not just as a laundry list, but really all of the groups those LGBT kids, each of those identities needs to be addressed in a way that those students feel that they're supported. Because when we leave any kids out at the moment that they're feeling desperate, then we're afraid that they'll feel even more isolated. And the other thing that we want to raise as a transgender organization is the importance of examining the role that gender identity and expression plays in the bullying of gay, lesbian, and bisexual students as well as transgender youth. Often kids are targeted for the ways in which they express their gender, whether they're deemed by their peers to be too effeminate or too masculine. And we hope that we'll continue to have dialogues about the ways in which those gender stereotypes contribute to the problems that our students face overall. So thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it back to Melissa, I guess.
Justin, thank you so much. Lots of great data there.